This is CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer reporting. The terrorist group that claimed responsibility for the kidnapping a week ago of 3 Americans and an Indian citizen in Beirut issued a new warning tonight, saying they will kill the 4 within a week unless Israel releases 400 people being held in Israeli prisons. Photographs of Jesse Turner and Alan Steen, 2 of the Americans who were captured, were sent along with a terrorist message. All this as new concerns were raised as to the whereabouts of hostage negotiator Terry Waite, and as more Americans left Beirut today. Doug Tennell has that.
Some of the last American residents of the Muslim half of Beirut were ready to leave this morning, taking up the American embassy's offer to arrange a safe way out. 2 unidentified men and a woman were bundled into vehicles brimming with Muslim gunmen who had agreed to be their bodyguards for the long drive through the heart of the Muslim sector where so many have been kidnapped. They crossed the no-man's land into the safer Christian half of town without incident. A second group of 17 Americans reached the nearby island of Cyprus today after an overnight voyage.
I was thinking of staying longer, but after the situation developed, well, of course, I left.
The Druze Muslims who rode in this morning's evacuation convoy were some of the same men who had earlier protected hostage negotiator Terry Waite, last seen on his way to a secret meeting with kidnappers on January 19th. The Archbishop of Canterbury today said he still did not have enough information to confirm or deny a report that Waite is now a hostage.
He went over there on a humanitarian mission, and he went there non-politically, and he's been, if this report is true, he's been betrayed.
Waite was reportedly seen in the Bekaa Valley of eastern Lebanon earlier this week, an area under Syrian control. But Syrian officials say they don't know about Waite, and Lebanese militia leaders in Damascus today said they were uncertain too.
It may be that he's a hostage now. Perhaps. We hope not, but perhaps.
In an interview with CBS News on the same day he vanished, Terry Waite talked about what he would do if he were ever kidnapped.
I do my best to survive and maintain myself. I wouldn't expect anyone to come out for me, and I would be appalled if anyone even suggested that I should be used as a bargaining counter. I think that would be appalling.
That was 11 days ago. Since then, no group has claimed to be holding Terry Waite against his will. There have been no communiques, no photographs, and no demands. There has been nothing firm on Terry Waite at all. Doug Tennell, CBS News, Damascus.
The latest wave of American kidnappings brought with it what seems to be a changing public attitude. This week, for the first time, questions were being raised about why Americans are still in Lebanon, where there are easy targets for terrorists, and whether their refusal to leave is a disservice to their country. One expert put it bluntly.
I think it's very foolhardy for Americans to be in a place like Lebanon right now.
You hear the same thing from people on the street.
All the people who stay in Lebanon put the whole country at risk.
Just to save one life. Why should everybody else suffer for it?
If you wanted to make a point.
Alan Steen is one of the American professors kidnapped in Beirut just a week ago, but today even his brother said there is not much the government can do to help.
I mean, this thing is happening so often with not this country, but with other countries. It's almost becoming a, lack of a better word, a cliche over there. You know, if you're a hostage, you're just one of the crew.
All this is in sharp contrast to the calls for urgent action and the feelings of outrage that were expressed over the American diplomats who were taken hostage during the Carter administration.
I never forget one moment that I'm awake about the hostages whose lives and whose safety depend on me.
But the difficulty of dealing with a flood of terrorist incidents since then and the circumstances surrounding the latest ones have lowered expectations and brought different feelings.
Regrettably almost, kidnappings have become so routine that the public, to a certain extent, has become numb.
While the U.S. government will attempt to help citizens unlawfully detained in Lebanon or elsewhere, our ability to secure their release is limited.
Today, some of the Americans there were leaving, but many are not. Despite the new administration ban on travel to Lebanon and the decision to revoke the passports of those who don't leave, many apparently still don't feel the danger.
When you're in East Beirut, you really don't feel affected. You don't worry about this kidnapping business much.
The problem for the U.S. government, of course, is that until that attitude changes, Beirut will continue to provide a ready supply of possible American victims for terrorist kidnappers. When we come back, Terry Drinkwater will talk with Ferdinand Marcos in his Hawaiian exile home, and we'll see the Stars and Stripes breezing to victory in the America's Cup opener.
Oh, boy. I've waited years for the chance to do this. Longer lasting. Fewer repairs. Sure.
Whether it's side by side or the full-size stacked, every Maytag washer is built to keep a Maytag repairman lonely.
I'm glad everything's not built like a Maytag.
Maytag. The dependability people.
When it's cold and rough outside, try something warm and creamy inside. Cream of wheat hot cereal and instant mix and eat. Their smooth texture always lets the flavor come through. Two great ways to come in from the cold.
The defiant Philippines President Aquino vowed today that she will not tolerate any more attempts to destabilize her government. She told her rally, "I don't want to kill, but neither do I want to be killed." And she asked for another vote of confidence in the upcoming constitutional plebiscite. David Jackson has our report.
Cory Aquino is making Monday's vote on the Constitution a test of her own popularity. And she wrapped up her campaign for yes votes today with a rally in Manila and a promise of better times ahead.
Will become one of the greatest countries in the world.
The crowd, perhaps 50,000, was not as large as those she drew a year ago, but it was as sold as ever on Cory.
Voter approval of the new Constitution would legitimize her government, but she still faces serious problems. On the left, communist negotiators have scuttled peace talks, and on the right, a continued threat from Marcos loyalists.
The Army today raided a farm reportedly owned by the former president's son-in-law. 5 men, it says, are loyalist soldiers, were captured. 200 more got away. The Army claims it was a training ground for rebel soldiers connected with this week's mutiny in Manila. The country's waited months for Monday's crucial vote, no one more eagerly than Cory Aquino, who hopes it will pave the way toward stability, something her government's never really had the chance to know. David Jackson, CBS News, Manila.
At his home in exile in Hawaii, ousted President Ferdinand Marcos belittled Monday's vote. He talked of this week's abortive effort to fly home and told CBS News correspondent Terry Drinkwater that an eye ailment might keep him grounded.
Marcos branded the plebiscite a phony and predicted a dishonest vote count.
It is intended to give Madame Aquino some shadow of legitimacy. That is the only important thing to her.
Marcos seems very frustrated. In a series of interviews, 15 in the last 24 hours, he revealed that health problems might have made a return flight to the Philippines impossible, even if President Aquino and the U.S. State Department had allowed it.
Air pressure might affect my eyes. I understand they're going to examine the optic nerve, and they've given me a brain scan.
And the doctor now tells you what on this subject?
As of now, don't travel in a plane.
So you would not do it, not return?
I would have to seriously consider this. But it is still my hope that I can go back to the Philippines.
But the eye problems are not all. Doctors had told him not to jog or work out because of flu symptoms.
Hard-headed as I usually am, I disregarded doctor's advice and I started exercising. Then I had to lie down. I came up with fever, severe pains in the muscle, headaches, vertigo.
After that exercise?
After this series of exercise, because I used to exercise every day.
As his fellow countrymen vote on the new Constitution, their 69-year-old former president remains in seclusion at his estate overlooking Waikiki, where he'll undergo yet another round of medical tests by his doctors. Terry Drinkwater, CBS News, Honolulu.
Jack Rafferty proves you just can't tell.
The fellas that I work with are pretty perceptive. They don't miss too much. No one had picked up the fact that the gray was gone from my hair. It was that simple. No one realized I was using the Grecian Formula 16. It was so gradual. The Grecian has a natural look about it. It's not a dye, it's a clear liquid. The questions most asked by the fellas at work were, what are you doing? You working out? Are you losing weight? And unless I told them I was using the Grecian Formula 16, they never would have guessed.
Grecian Formula 16. You just can't tell who's using it.
Wait till you see the changes we're making at Howard Johnson.
This is Howard Johnson? This is Howard Johnson? Howard Johnson?
This is Howard Johnson?
If you haven't stayed with us recently, you may be in for a surprise.
This is Howard Johnson.
We're changing our rooms, our furnishings, and there's a new attention to service.
This is Howard Johnson. This is Howard Johnson. This is Howard Johnson.
Your family's back home today, so wake them up their favorite way. 'Cause the soldiers are through, the aroma's calling you. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your car.
Mornings are brighter with mountain-grown Folgers. Mountain-grown coffee beans have more enticing aroma than any other kind.
The best part of waking up is Folgers in your car.
The 6-month-long work stoppage at USX Corporation is over. The United Steelworkers announced tonight that the rank and file ratified a new contract that includes wage and benefit cuts. USX says that some plants could reopen as early as tomorrow. In just a matter of hours, People Express Airlines will fly out of existence, swallowed up by Texas Air. But there's no end in sight to the airline battle that People touched off 6 years ago with its revolutionary cut-rate fares. Harry Smith has our report.
The rumble felt through the nation's airports today came from the country's biggest air carrier as its fleet took off for the latest round of fare wars. Continental and Eastern, the two big wings of giant Texas Air, struck first. With 40% price cuts on certain tickets, soon you can fly from New York to Los Angeles for $89.
Is this a full siege? Yeah. When we take actions, the rest of the industry has to react in some way.
Continental and Eastern were quickly but reluctantly joined by United, Delta, Northwest, and American. But this wasn't supposed to happen. Fare wars helped U.S. airlines lose more than $600 million last year.
Everyone is going to wonder, does this just mean another round of national fare wars, in which case the bright profit picture for the airlines goes down the tubes?
There's a catch, though, to some of these new super cheap airfares. All ticket purchases are final, so if you change your mind, there's no refund. But bargain-hunting travelers kept reservation lines busy, even if many of the discounts only apply when most people don't want to fly.
They certainly won't be able to find those discount seats available on key hour flights like 5 o'clock from LaGuardia to Chicago, when the businessman will fill it at full fares.
For weeks, Texas Air has been changing newly acquired People Express jets into Continental jets. The airline industry is learning the makeover is more than cosmetic. It's war paint. Harry Smith, CBS News, Houston.
The family of astronaut Ellison Onizuka has fulfilled a pledge made before the Challenger disaster. The post-flight luau they had promised the Hawaiian native was held today in his memory. Authentic luau food was flown in to the Houston suburbs from Hawaii, and just as he had wanted, the guests were his friends from the Johnson Space Center. The Challenger disaster has grounded the American space program until at least next year, but this week our Moscow correspondent, Wyatt Andrews, has been looking into the impact of that on the U.S.-Soviet space race.
90 to 100 times last year, the Soviet Union launched some sort of rocket into orbit, more than 5 times the launch rate of the United States. Up in orbit, the Soviets have 2 functioning space laboratories, compared to America's none. In total time, Soviet cosmonauts have more than double the time American astronauts have spent in space. The question is simple. With America's manned space program in search of direction, aren't the Soviets clearly ahead in space? The answer is mixed. The Soviets are ahead in experience, but give America the continued edge in technology.
In the field of astronomy, in space especially, American scientists have achieved great results that would take us a long time to match. But we have success in the use of manned space stations and in medicine.
Last year, while America disclosed the mistakes of NASA, Soviet TV viewers marveled as their cosmonauts spent 4 months shuttling between the 2 space stations in operation. 1 month, a press conference in the space station Salyut 7. Another month, a frolicking tour of the almost luxurious new space station Mir. The differing approaches to space became starkly clear. With America grounded and committed to reusable shuttlecraft based on Earth, the Soviets did their shuttling between stations based in space. Peaceful science, however, is but a fraction of the Soviet effort. Experts say 2/3 of Soviet launches are for the military. The Soviets are believed to be ahead of the United States in killer satellite deployment and could have military functions built into their space stations.
We have nothing at all deployed, SDI-wise, or in any kind of way that can protect our strategic systems in order to effectively put in peril the Soviet Union. They do. We don't.
The Soviets, like the Americans, have begun to get cost-conscious about space. This year they announced they were in business to launch satellites or payloads for other nations. Discounts available, they said, for developing countries. Soviet scientists, like their Western counterparts, admit to problems with money. Problems convincing the socialist authorities that the deep exploration of space practically benefits the public. The result is a growing insistence here that the Soviet and American space programs join hands. The goal, incredibly, a joint Soviet-American probe and possible manned mission to Mars sometime before the year 2000. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Moscow.
Soviet Foreign Minister Shevardnadze has acknowledged that the unilateral ceasefire in Afghanistan is not working. He confirmed reports today that rebels continue to attack forces of the Kremlin-backed Afghan government. In a moment, we'll have a report from inside Iran on how the westernized middle class has learned to live in a country ruled by religion and the Ayatollah.
Inspection! Are we clean?
Yes, sir.
How do we stay looking clean?
With automatic Vanish, sir.
Why automatic Vanish?
Sir, Vanish's tough detergent formula helps keep us clean and deodorized.
Prove it!
Sir, the blue proves it's working.
Sound off!
Automatic!
Sound off!
Vanish!
With automatic Vanish, the clean goes on and on! And Private, there are other Vanish products you should know about. When you want to brush, use liquid or crystal Vanish. Their powerful formula cleans so well, you'll stand up to any inspection.
Yes, sir.
Cadillac Seville for 1987, an unmistakable statement of success. Its elegant design surrounds some of the most remarkable engineering in Cadillac history. Engineering designed to enhance your comfort, your control, and your confidence with impeccable manners on the road. And a new, longer warranty, all the while reminding you that Seville represents the ultimate in American luxury sedans. Seville, the elegant spirit of Cadillac.
In his radio address today, President Reagan repeated his commitment to education and the drug abuse fight, and he defended his proposed budget cuts in those areas. Some of his backers are beginning to worry that Mr. Reagan will spend much of his remaining term on the defensive. Terrence Smith has a report on that.
The President and Mrs. Reagan are spending the weekend snowbound at the White House rather than at Camp David. As he did with his State of the Union message, the President's weekly radio address attempted to shift the focus of attention away from the Iran-Contra scandal to domestic considerations.
I've suggested to Congress that we target our federal resources on the neediest schools and youngsters, that we set a goal of dramatically raising the literacy levels in America by the year 2000.
But Mr. Reagan remains beleaguered by the Iran crisis. The Senate Intelligence Committee report released Thursday continues to produce a daily drumbeat of embarrassing headlines. It paints a devastating picture of his White House staff, bungling, inept, deceitful with one another and with Congress. Even the State of the Union address raised questions about Mr. Reagan's management style and the cohesiveness of his staff. Different factions in the White House were so divided over the details of catastrophic health insurance that the President was reduced to a passing, generalized reference to this pet project. All that has led to fresh calls for the resignation of White House Chief of Staff Donald Reagan.
The problem, frankly, is much broader and deeper than Don Regan, but he's become the symbol of what's wrong.
And in order to clean it out, people think you've got to deal with the symbol.
Instead of Reagan, the White House announced today the resignation of Mitch Daniels, the political director. Ironically, it was Daniels who suggested last month that Reagan should go in order to take the pressure off the president. Among the president's supporters, the continuing paralysis at the White House has raised fears about the long-term consequences of his current predicament.
I think that the Reagan Revolution was clearly running out of gas before the Iran-Contra affair. It needed a new injection of energy very badly after that affair hit, and it has not found it yet.
The fear expressed privately by White House officials is that they may have already been reduced to caretaker status. They expect 1987 to be dominated by the Iran-Contra revelations and 1988 by the presidential campaign. As one official put it, that doesn't leave much time for anything else. Terrence Smith, CBS News, the White House.
In the Persian Gulf War, Iran claimed today that a great victory has saved its key port of Basra, but Iran says it was Iraq that made that claim, says the claim is false. Iran says it crushed the Iraqi counterattack near Basra and inflicted some 3,000 casualties. Iran says its men are poised to continue their drive on the city. The war has taken a steep toll in Iranian lives and has deeply affected the way people live. Bill Redeker filed this report from inside Iran.
In this religious nation, it may seem that everyone is preoccupied with either praying or training for the jihad, the holy crusade against Iraq. With more than 100 foreign news reporters in town, that sort of image is being reinforced around the world. But Iran is not all prayers, propaganda, and preparation for the war. There is another side to the society, somewhat disenfranchised, but still a part of Iran today. These are members of the middle and upper classes here, mostly businessmen and their families who stayed behind after the Shah fled.
I am not doing as well as I want to, but I'm surviving.
They have survived by learning how to adapt. Though capitalistic and Western in their outlook, they follow Islamic rules while retaining some individuality.
The only thing that bothers people too much is war. If the war finishes, I think the other problem is going to be solved.
They have to stop it. This damn war should be stopped.
What do people here think about the United States arms shipment to Iran?
They are angry.
In a society where war is the centerpiece of political policy, that sort of criticism and this sort of lifestyle are allowed because it was merchants from the bazaar or the business class that financed Khomeini's revolution and have kept the domestic economy from collapse. It's why even the children of the upper and middle classes here can get away with looking and acting like this. Bill Redeker, CBS News, Tehran.
India and Pakistan held high-level talks today in an attempt to defuse a week of dangerous border tension. More than 200,000 Indian troops on full alert are facing a full number of Pakistani soldiers. Coming up, we'll have a report on round one of the America's Cup Finals. Victory for the Stars and Stripes.
Water. Nature's purest ingredient is the only thing Nescafe uses to decaffeinate its coffee. Besides coffee, while most other decaffeinated coffees use things like methylene chloride, Nescafe Decaf is naturally decaffeinated with water, the coffee bean's natural oils, and not a drop of anything else. Nescafe Decaf, the coffee that tastes your way, naturally.
Dad?
Oh, Julie, look at your hay fever.
Oh, she hasn't had a sniffle all day. And I'm ready to dance all night.
Thanks to research by Dow's pharmaceutical subsidiary, millions like Julie may now find relief from allergies without the drowsiness often associated with allergy treatments.
You can make a difference in what tomorrow brings.
Save me a dance.
'Cause God lets you do great things.
Freedent's the one. If you've got dental work, you've got 3 great reasons to chew Freedent gum. You know Freedent won't stick to your dental work. And Freedent freshens your breath. But maybe you didn't know that Freedent moistens your mouth. So if you hate a dry mouth like I do, chew Freedent. Freedent.
Freedent's the one that took the stick out of gum, and Freedent moistens your mouth. Yeah, moistens your mouth, and freshens your breath while you chew.
Non-stick Freedent moistens your mouth and freshens your breath.
The American yacht Stars and Stripes breezed a victory in the opening race of the America's Cup Finals against defending Australia. The Americans won under weather conditions considered ideal for their opponent. Barry Peterson reports.
It was America away as Stars and Stripes headed out for the first race. And the Australians gathered in force to boost their boat, Kookaburra. The light winds expected to favor Kookaburra helped the American boat instead. Stars and Stripes took the lead early and never looked back. At the helm, Dennis Conner, the skipper, the only time America lost the cup. It is win number 1, 3 more needed for redemption, for revenge. For Conner, it may be a matter of personal pride. For Australia, it's the pride of an entire nation hanging in the balance.
They're about to cross the line. They make a final move.
When they first beat the Americans in 1983, hundreds of thousands poured into the streets. A young country beat the superpower. The land down under had come up in the world.
It's part of our self-image. It's part of our self-esteem. You know, for the first time, in many ways, this country saw themselves as winners, as being the best in the world. And that's something that's very, very sacred to this country now.
But it's a country with a small population in big trouble. High unemployment, high inflation. Products from its main industries, mining and farming, aren't selling as they once did. Some think the America's Cup is hype, not health.
It's bread and circuses. At a time when the country is going down the zoom economically, government finds it good to present the people with bread and circuses in the form of permanent festivals.
But to many Australians, the cup race is war, a battle to keep their new national identity.
Well, now's the time to get behind our fighting Aussie heroes. Together we'll show the world and take the cup again.
It's a nation cheering for a win, fearing a fall. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Fremantle.
And that's the news. Susan Spencer will be here tomorrow. I'm Bob Schieffer, CBS News, New York. Good night.
Look, they're my parents, and I tell you, they're acting different. I mean, they go dancing. Herbert and Jane dancing. I know, Mother thinks it's fun. She wears eye makeup now. I don't know what's gotten into them. Who says this? Why don't they act their age?
To help them get more out of life, people are eating better. Some have found Kellogg's Product 19, 100% of 12 vitamins and minerals. Feel good about yourself.
Tennis? They don't play tennis.
Feel like 19 again.
Say, these must be Jack's new Canon personal copiers. Great color.
Yeah, and they copy in 5. You want to see?
Go ahead. Make my day.
Everything you need to copy with is in this replaceable cartridge.
I'll do that.
Good thing Canon has PCs for every personality, even pushy agents.
Lighten up, Jack.
These new Canon personal copiers are light. Put one in my car.
What a guy.
Personal copiers for every personality. For information, call toll-free 1-800-OK-CANON.
This is CBS. Take all the Sport.
The TV8 News, live at 6, next.
If you're looking for top quality prescription and name brand over-the-counter drugs at low prices, if you're looking for the finest in health and beauty products at low prices, if you're looking for fast, professional, personal service and low prices, stop by your nearby Medicap pharmacy. Medicap, for top quality products and service. And low prices.
Keep corn roots safe from rootworms all season. Switch to Brute Corn Soil Insecticide. Brute protects your corn from planting till the rootworm season is over. Brute Insecticide. Switch to it.